about are 1710 bed hangings. These form part of my private collection, which I started about 25 years ago. I was looking for a set of curtains for my office and thought, well, it'd be jolly nice to have some Crewel Work curtains of the sort that are sold in department stores and made in India. And they're usually made with a tambour hook in a continuous chain stitch. And so I put in a search for those and found some in the south of England at an auction house. I rang the auctioneer for a description, and he said that they were multicoloured with very little variation in the chain stitches. So I thought, well, how jolly nice. Cream background, wool embroidery, you know, they're likely to be imported and they sometimes have a slight smell, but I really do like those sort of curtains that you see, and I particularly like the white on white ones or white on cream. Anyway, these were multicoloured and I thought that would be quite jolly and keep the drafts out. So I left a very small bid with the auction house, and I didn't really expect to hear anything back because it's a wealthy part of the world. I thought, well, the measurements were good. If it turned out all right, then they'd send them back to me and that would be fine. So I was pretty surprised when, you know, a few weeks later, the auction house rang up and said, when are you going to collect your curtains? And I thought, well, that's jolly nice. And they said there were 2 bin bags full, so 2 black plastic bags, and they were quite heavy and they were reluctant to send them. So I'd actually just arranged to go and call in and collect them. But when I arrived, these 2 bin bags were in the back of their office. And I just thought, oh, what have I done? It's several £100 and it's not a very good investment if they turn out to be not suitable. But when I opened the top of the first bin bag, I received the unmistakable smell of antique needlework. So I just took a little peep and then popped them in the car and drove home. When I got home, I opened them out and I was expecting 2 big wide curtains. But to my amazement and absolute delight, there were 4 curtains, the 2 shorter front ones and the 2 longer ones that go round the post of the bottom of a 4-poster bed. And lo and behold, there was also the Pelmet, which is very unusual because usually the Pelmet is something that isn't really used. People use poles, but not Pelmets anymore. And those are usually discarded. So, and it was fantastic to have a full set because when you have antique needlework of this age, it's usually been divided between several museums or several owners when people inherit it. Very often these 4 sets are split up. It was difficult to know where to turn to gather more information about these pieces because really auction houses and dealers are very knowledgeable about needlework, but I wasn't intending to sell them, and I always think it's a bit disingenuous to go and ask for advice but when you're not intending to sell something. But in fact, Lanto Singh, who's a very famous needlework historian and director of mallets and advisor to all sorts of leading museums, he actually held at that time a clinic in the V&A in London in the Victorian Albert Museum where you could go on the first Tuesday of the month and take your needlework and he would tell you about it and see if it was suitable for taking in for auction. So I took it down and he actually said it was a very, very unusual piece. Well, I think I knew it was unusual, but I didn't know how unusual. And he actually called it the missing link in Crewel Work between the James II through to William and Mary late Jacobean era and going into the Georgian era. So it's actually from the time of Queen Anne, about 1710. At this time, the lighter spot motif type of decoration became popular, and this, if I talk about the Pelmet first, the Pelmet has got a marvellous sweeping vine across it with the king ho-ho, the male bird, and a male parrot in the Pelmet. And below that, the 4 bed hangings have all got female birds and no animals at all linked and framed by this marvellous vine, this sweeping, curling, coiling vine. But the middle, if you like, of the page of each of each of the panels actually has spot motifs. So it has separate little designs of leaves in all different colours, but vine leaves to reflect the vine going around the edge, and very brightly coloured exotic birds and parrots. So it is a sort of tree of life, but it's a different tree of life than the hummocks and hills and animals and birds and the usual tree of life design that we know and love so much.